Dad, Dad, please, you need to come now. It's Jameson. There's blood, Dad. There's so much blood. You need to get to Ridgeline now. Then the line went dead. I stood in my kitchen holding a phone I'd just stopped holding. Coffee cup shattered on the floor where I dropped it, and my hands were already shaking too hard to find my keys. That was my daughter Hannah, 11:14 on a Wednesday night. I didn't stop to think. I didn't stop to hear anything wrong in her voice. Not that night. I just ran. I'm Reuben Russell, 63 years old, retired mechanic. Ran Russell's garage on 5th Street for 38 years till my knees quit on me. I live alone in the house I built with my own hands, the house where my wife Gloria and I raised Hannah. Gloria's been gone 10 months. Aneurysm. No warning. One minute she was alive, next minute the paramedics were telling me there was nothing left to do. I still can't drive past the cemetery without my chest going tight. After Gloria died, Hannah started coming around more. Sunday dinners, calls twice a week, bringing my grandkids by so the house didn't feel so empty. I told my brother Gideon I thought losing her mother had made her grow up some, made her want family close. Gideon just looked at me funny and didn't say a word. I should have asked him why. I don't remember most of the drive to Ridgeline. I remember running a red light on 4th. I remember my hands wouldn't stop shaking on the wheel, and I kept thinking, he's dying, and I wasn't there, over and over like a loop stuck in my head with no room for anything else. Fear does that to a man, shuts every other door in your brain and leaves just the one open, the one screaming at you to move. I left my truck crooked in the emergency bay, didn't even shut the door right, and ran through the sliding doors into that flat white hospital light. Told the woman at the desk my son-in-law's name. She said Jameson Kelly had been admitted to the 4th floor, spinal injury, car wreck on Route 9. I was already moving toward the elevator before she finished the sentence. A hand caught my arm. Not hard, just firm enough to stop a man who wasn't thinking straight enough to stop himself. I turned around, ready to shove past whoever it was, and found a nurse looking at me steady and quiet. Badge said Sarah Newman, 40-some years old, tired eyes, the kind that don't flinch at much anymore. Mr. Russell, don't get on that elevator. My son-in-law's up there. He's hurt. I need to... Jameson Kelly is not hurt. She said it flat, no room for argument. He walked into this hospital on his own 2 legs 2 hours ago. Whatever your daughter told you on that phone was not true. I stood there. My brain, still running that same panicked loop, hit a wall it didn't know how to get around. What? Come with me. 60 seconds. That's all I'm asking. She pulled me into a small side room off the hallway before I could argue. 2 chairs, a box of tissues that looked like it had seen plenty of use already. She shut the door behind us. There's a man upstairs waiting for you tonight, and you're the only one he's expecting. I finally heard my own heartbeat over the panic, slower now, colder. How do you know my name? She reached into her scrub pocket and set a folded paper on the table between us. A photocopy, my name at the top, a life insurance policy, Hannah Kelly listed as sole beneficiary. Coverage, $2.4 million. My signature at the bottom, dated 6 weeks back. The Sunday Hannah came by with takeout and a folder of retirement paperwork she said her financial guy put together for me. I remember signing it without reading past the first page. I remember thinking I'd look at it closer later. Later never came. I know your name, Sarah said quietly, because I've been watching the doctor on that ward for 8 months, and Jameson Kelly isn't the first husband to walk in here uninjured. You're not the first father to get a call like the one you got tonight. The machine down the hall kept beeping, slow and steady, like it didn't know the whole world had just tilted sideways under my feet. Where are you watching this from? Drop your city below. I want to see how far Reuben's story travels tonight. Follow along.
His name's Zachary Perry, Sarah said. Doctor. Runs this ward 2 nights a week. And this isn't the first time he's done this. I sat down in one of those two chairs because my legs made the choice for me. My hands were still shaking, but it was a different shake now. Not panic, something colder. 8 months I've been watching him, she said. 3 deaths on this floor flagged by the coroner, never proven. Older patients. Every one of them had a family member who came into money right after. I looked at the insurance paper again. My name, Hannah's name under beneficiary. $2.4 million. She's my daughter, I said, like saying it out loud would make it stop being true. I know this is hard to hear. You don't know anything about hard. I didn't mean to snap at her. She didn't flinch, just let it sit there, and that told me she'd had worse said to her by better men than me on worse nights than this one. I thought about the takeout Hannah brought that Sunday. Chinese food, my favorite, the orange chicken from the place on Grant. She'd sat at my kitchen table, Gloria's table, and talked me through papers I didn't read, and I remember being grateful. Grateful my daughter wanted to sit with me. Grateful somebody still needed me at that table, since Gloria didn't anymore. I signed where she pointed. There's more, Sarah said. I need you to see something. Can you walk? I could walk. My legs worked fine. It was everything above the neck that had stopped functioning right. She took me down a back stairwell, not the elevator, to a nurse's station on the 2nd floor that was mostly dark, one lamp on. She sat at a terminal, typed in a login that wasn't hers. Whose password is that? Supervisor's. She trusts me. I've been careful with that trust for 8 months, so I could use it on a night like this.
A folder came up on screen. Patient referrals, private. She clicked it open, and 11 names appeared in a list, each one with a date, a physician, an insurance company, and a column at the end marked Outcome. 7 of the 11 had a small red mark next to the name. No explanation needed for what that meant. My name was 11th. No red mark. Not yet. I stared at that list a long time, long enough that Sarah didn't rush me. 4th name down, she finally said. Do you recognize it? Dolores Whitfield, 74, admitted with a fall 6 months back, existing heart condition on file, died 2 days later. Her son collected $1.8 million on a policy taken out 3 months before. I knew Dolores, not well. She came to the Tuesday coffee thing at the senior center Gloria used to drag me to, brought butterscotch candies in her purse, always offered you one before you even sat down. Her son never visited her much, from what I remember Gloria saying, worried her. He visited enough to take out a policy. How many of these got investigated? I asked. 2. Both closed, natural causes, elderly patient, no evidence of foul play. She looked at me. Perry's good at his paperwork. Real good. I thought about 38 years running a garage. You learn a lot about people watching what they do when they think nobody's checking their work. Guys who cut corners on a brake job because the customer wouldn't know the difference till it mattered. This was that, except the corner being cut was a person's life, and the customer who wouldn't know the difference was a grieving old man too tired to ask questions. Who else is in on it? I said. Not a question, a demand. She opened a second folder, this one buried under something labeled maintenance records. Inside were invoices. A man named Mario, private investigator, charging by the subject, background checks, asset reports, family situations. 9 invoices for 9 of the 11 names on that list. One of them was mine, dated 3 weeks after Gloria's funeral. I read that date twice to make sure I wasn't misreading it.
3 weeks after we buried my wife, somebody paid a man named Mario $800 to find out what I was worth. There's a broker, too, Sarah said, quieter now, like she knew this next part would land harder than the rest. Woman named Poppy. She processes the policies, makes sure they clear underwriting fast, no red flags raised. She's done it for every name on this list. I sat back in the chair. The hallway outside was dead quiet, except for a cartwheel squeaking somewhere far off and a monitor beeping steady on some other poor soul's chest. I need to know one thing, I said. Was Jameson in on this from the start, or did somebody talk him into it? Sarah didn't answer right away. She scrolled down further in the file, past the invoices, into a folder of email correspondence between Perry and somebody outside the hospital. Personal account, not Jameson's name on the sender line. Athena. My sister-in-law, Gloria's sister, the woman who sat next to me at the funeral holding my hand through the whole service, the woman who's had a key to my house since September because I thought it'd be good having somebody checking on me. The emails went back 9 months. Detailed. My blood pressure numbers, my bank, which drawer I kept my important papers in, whether I was sleeping, whether I was lonely. I looked at the date on the very first one. 2 months before Gloria died.
2 months before Gloria died. I read that date 3 times, waiting for it to mean something different each time. It never did. "She was in my kitchen 2 weeks ago," I said. "Brought me a casserole, sat with me while I cried about Gloria's birthday." My voice came out flat, like I was reading somebody else's grocery list. "She held my hand at the funeral, Sarah." "I know. She's been feeding him information since before my wife was even gone." Sarah didn't say anything to that. There wasn't anything to say. She just let the screen sit there, glowing with 9 months of my sister-in-law's betrayal, typed out in plain, careful sentences, and let me look at it as long as I needed to. I've spent my whole life being a decent judge of people. You have to be, running a shop. You learn fast which customer's going to try and stiff you on a bill, which one's telling the truth about that noise under the hood. I prided myself on that. 38 years, and nobody pulled much over on me. Grief pulled everything over on me. Grief made me hand my whole life to people who were counting the months till I stopped needing it. I need to know about the money. Jameson. Is he drowning in something? Is that why? Sarah clicked into a third folder, this one buried 3 layers deep under a maintenance schedule nobody would think to open. Financial records. A man named Mario had built out more than just background checks. There were wire logs, loan documents, threats disguised as reminder notices. Jameson owed a man named Mr. Reyes, everybody just called him Reyes, $190,000. Gambling. Sports books mostly, the kind that don't send you a bill, they send somebody to your door. Reyes doesn't do courts, he does other things. I thought about Jameson's new truck, the addition they put on their house last spring. Hannah's designer purse she showed me at Easter, laughing, saying Jameson finally got a bonus at work. I'd been proud my daughter and her husband were doing well, doing better than I ever did turning wrenches for a living. I'd bragged about it to Gloria before she died, and Gloria had gotten that same look Gideon gave me, the look that meant she saw something I didn't. "He didn't do this because he hates me," I said slowly. "No, scared people are worse than cruel ones. Cruel people got a reason. Scared people just want the fear to stop, and they stop asking what it costs." I stood up. My knees ached the way they always did after standing too fast, but for the first time all night my head felt clear. Fear had been running my whole body since that phone call. Now something else was running it, something with edges. I need access to a computer for real, not just looking over your shoulder. I need to build this out myself, in order, so it makes sense to somebody who isn't standing here living it. She studied me a second. "You know how to do that?"
I ran a business for 38 years. I know how to lay out a case that a bank will believe, a customer will believe, a judge will believe if it comes to that. Give me the login and 40 minutes. She hesitated, then logged out and stood, letting me take the chair. 40 minutes, she said. Then we move. Jameson's been texting somebody. I don't know who yet, but the pattern's picking up, and that's never good this late. I started pulling files, names, dates, dollar amounts, matching them up like torque specs on an engine. This connects to that connects to this, until the whole thing sat there, running clean and undeniable. 20 minutes in, I found something I wasn't looking for. A folder labeled Whitfield-D. Dolores, the woman from the coffee mornings, butterscotch candies in her purse. Except this folder wasn't about her death, it was about her admission 5 years back, the very first name that started this whole operation. And attached to the intake paperwork was a second physician's signature, co-signing Perry's orders that week. Not Perry's handwriting alone. Zachary Perry hadn't built this thing by himself. He learned it from somebody who trained him on this exact floor years before Perry ever touched Dolores Whitfield's chart. I sat back and stared at the name signed underneath it. Emma Voss, still employed at Ridgeline, still working nights, still, according to the roster pulled up in the next window, scheduled to be on this exact floor in less than 3 hours. "Sarah," I said. My voice came out low. "Who's Emma Voss?" Sarah leaned over my shoulder, read the name, and went very still, the kind of still a person goes when the floor they thought was solid just showed them a crack straight down the middle. "She trained me," Sarah said quietly. 6 years ago. She's the reason I know how to read a chart the way I do." Neither of us said anything for a second. Down the hall, a call bell chimed once and went quiet. My phone buzzed in Sarah's pocket, where she'd kept it since the elevator. She pulled it out, looked at the screen, and her face changed. "It's Hannah," she said. "She's called 4 times in the last 10 minutes.
"Don't answer it," I said. "Not yet." Sarah set the phone face down on the desk like it might bite her. "If she's calling this much, something's moved. Perry doesn't like surprises. If Jameson told them you're not answering texts, they'll assume you're either lost in the building or already—" She stopped herself. "Already what?" "Already sedated. That's usually the point somebody stops calling and starts waiting." I looked at the clock on the terminal. 1:52 a.m. Whatever window I thought I had was closing faster than I planned for. "I need this out of the building," I said, "not just sitting on a screen where somebody can wipe it before morning." Sarah reached into her scrub pocket and pulled out a USB drive, small, corners worn soft like she'd been carrying it around for exactly this night for a long time. "Copy everything. Referral list, the invoices, Athena's emails, the Whitfield file with Voss's signature, all of it." I copied it. Then I did something she hadn't asked for. I opened a new browser window and sent the same files to 3 email addresses. My own, my brother Gideon's, who'd been a beat cop for 20 years before he made detective, and a third one, freshly made, no name attached to anything, the kind of address you use when you don't trust one copy to survive the night. "Why 3?" Sarah asked. "Because 38 years fixing cars taught me one thing about people who cheat. They only get away with it as long as there's one copy of the truth to destroy. Make 3 and it stops mattering who gets to the first one." We came out of the nurse's station into the stairwell, the fluorescent tube overhead flickering slow and lazy, like it didn't know the whole building was about to come apart. Sarah's phone buzzed again in her pocket. She checked it. "Text from the floor," she said. "Perry is requesting medication early, not scheduled for 6, now." That meant whatever timeline I thought I had just become minutes. "Call your brother, now, not after we move, now." I dialed Gideon on the burner phone she'd handed me, the kind you buy off a rack with cash and no name on it. He picked up on the second ring, voice thick with sleep, then sharp the second he heard mine. "Reuben, it's 2 in the morning. What—" "I need you to listen and not ask questions till I'm done. I told him everything, fast, in order, the way I'd learned watching him give reports at family dinners for 20 years. Facts first, feelings later. Hannah, Jameson, Perry, the list, Athena, Emma Voss, Reyes, and the $190,000, Dolores Whitfield's file with 2 signatures on it going back 5 years. Gideon didn't interrupt once. When I finished, there was a silence that lasted longer than I liked. "I knew something was off with her," he said finally. His voice had gone hard in a way I hadn't heard from him since our own father's funeral. Since Gloria's service, who plans a burial with a caterer that fancy off a mechanic's savings? I should have said something. "Say something now. I need somebody with a badge here before this doctor gets to whoever he's got scheduled next." "He's coming," I said. 20 minutes might not be fast enough. She looked at the ceiling like she could see straight through it to the 4th floor. "There's something else you need to know before he gets here. Something in the Whitfield file I didn't want to say back there." "Say it now." "The intake paperwork on Dolores. It wasn't just Voss's signature that trained Perry." She took a breath. "There's a note in the margin, initials only, dated the same week your wife was transferred onto this floor for her final round of care. Somebody flagged Gloria's chart for review. Somebody wanted to know what she was worth." The stairwell went very quiet. Somewhere above us, footsteps started down, slow and unhurried, a man in no rush at all because he didn't yet know his night was already over. "Whose initials?" I said. Sarah didn't get the chance to answer. The door 1 flight up opened, and a voice, calm, professional, a voice built for delivering bad news gently, carried down the stairwell. "Mr. Russell, I hear you're in the building. Why don't you come up and see me?" Zachary Perry knew exactly where I was.
I looked at Sarah. She looked back at me, and in her eyes I saw the same thing I felt in my own chest. There wasn't time left to be careful. "Go," she whispered, up the stairs, toward his voice. "Let him think you're alone and scared. I'll get to the 2nd exit and call it in from outside where he can't track the line." I didn't feel brave climbing that stairwell. I felt like a man walking toward the one thing that had already taken everything from him and had come back for the rest. My knees ached. My hands didn't shake anymore. Fear had burned itself out somewhere around Dolores Whitfield's file, and what was left underneath it was something colder and steadier. Zachary Perry was standing in the 4th floor hallway when I came through the door. Tall, unhurried, hands folded in front of him like a funeral director. He smiled at me the way he must have smiled at 11 other families. "Mr. Russell, I'm glad you came up. Jameson's asking for you." "Jameson's not hurt," I said. "We both know that." The smile didn't move, but something behind his eyes recalculated. "I'm not sure what you mean." "Dolores Whitfield," I said. "Emma Voss trained you on her chart 5 years ago, and somebody flagged my wife's file the same week she got transferred onto your floor. I want the name." For the first time all night, Perry's calm cracked, just at the edges, just enough. "You've been busy," he said quietly. "Whose initials, doctor?" He didn't answer with words. He reached slow into his coat pocket, and for 1 second my whole body braced for something worse than a name. But it was only his phone, already lit up, already dialing. He never got to finish the call. The stairwell door behind him banged open, and Gideon came through first, badge already up, 2 uniformed officers moving fast and quiet the way trained men move when the clock's already run out. Sarah must have gotten through on the outside line faster than any of us expected. "Zachary Perry, hands where I can see them." It was over that fast. All those months Sarah spent alone in this building, carrying a file nobody would believe, and it ended in about 90 seconds of hallway. They took Perry out in cuffs past the nurse's station, past patients half asleep in their rooms who'd never know how close their own charts might have come to a red mark in that hidden folder. I stood against the wall and watched him go, and I still never got my answer about whose initials flagged Gloria's file. I got it 3 days later, from Gideon, sitting at my kitchen table with 2 cups of coffee, only one of them mine to drink. "Athena," he said, confirmed it herself when we brought her in.
She's been feeding information on the whole family to Perry's network since before your wife passed. Says she needed the money, gambling debts of her own, separate from Jameson's. Says she talked herself into believing your wife's cancer was terminal anyway, that she wasn't really doing anything, just speeding along something that was already happening. I didn't say anything for a while. I thought about her hand in mine at Gloria's funeral. I thought about the casserole 2 weeks ago and how I thanked her for it. Hannah didn't know about her mother, that part at least. She swears it, and so far the evidence backs her up. She knew about the insurance policy on you. She didn't know Athena had a hand in Gloria's care. It didn't make it better. It just made it a different shape of bad. Hannah got 11 years for conspiracy and fraud. Jameson, 9, for his part in staging the call and the debt that started it all. Athena took a plea, 6 years, cooperating witness. Reyes was picked up 2 weeks later on charges that had nothing to do with me and everything to do with a decade of people like Jameson. Emma Voss lost her license and is facing charges tied to 5 prior cases, Dolores Whitfield's among them. Perry's trial hasn't started yet. I've been told I'll need to testify. I will. I visited Hannah once at the county facility 3 months after. She looked smaller across that table than she ever looked in my kitchen. She said she was sorry. I believed she meant it, the way you can believe a person means something and still know it doesn't undo what they did. I'm not coming back, I told her. Not because I don't love the daughter I raised, because the woman who called me that night wasn't her, and I can't build anything on top of what she did instead. She nodded. She didn't argue. I think some part of her already knew that's where this was headed the night she made that call. I sold the house on 5th 6 months later. Too many rooms holding too much of what I lost in 1 year. Gloria, then the version of my family I thought I still had. I moved into a smaller place outside town, closer to the garage I used to run, now owned by a younger fella I trained myself 20 years back. He lets me come by sometimes, hand him a wrench, feel useful for an hour. Reuben Nelson still works Ridgeline. Last I heard, the hospital board created a new oversight position because of everything she uncovered, and they gave it to her. Seemed fair. 8 months alone, nobody believing her, and she was right the whole time. I think about Gloria every day. Not the hollow way I did those first 10 months, waiting for something bad to finish happening to me. Different now. I know what I almost lost on top of her. I know what it cost me to trust the wrong people while I was too broken to notice I was doing it. I'm listening a lot closer these days. To voices. To silence. To the difference between the two. That's Reuben Russell. If this one hit you, drop your city below. I want to know how far it traveled. And if you know somebody who needs to hear it, send it their way. They'll know why.